Hello?
Hi, Vincent.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Oh, I'm feeling very good because I think I finally finished this Christian Science Hinduism.blogspot.com because um the last piece of evidence I was looking for was so basically I'm trying to get people to not believe in Hinduism because if you believe in its positions, then that should lead to a belief in magic powers, right? And the same is true for Christian Science, started by Mary Baker Eddy. And the thing is that why do people reject Christian Science? People reject Christian Science because it doesn't work, because people die from medical neglect. That's why people reject Christian Science. Um, Hinduism is a lot more crafty in that it tells you not to use your magic powers, but you are supposed to get them. And so the idea that no one has ever used them is absurd. So basically, my position is that we should reject Hinduism just like Christian Science because it's just absurd.
But of course, but people don't subscribe to religions because they think it's logical or not logical. It's all about the kind of religious practices that they prefer. If they like the idea of meditating and saying Om and going to retreats, they might choose Buddhism. It's about the form of worship, and I guess if they don't like going to hospitals or consulting doctors, then Christian Science is just up their alley. Don't you think? Vincent? Hello? I don't know. I can't hear you anymore. I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me? No. So it's basically pseudoscience. So calling your Christianity Christian Science doesn't mean it's in any way scientific at all. So it's just a marketing label, a concept. Where are you? Hi,
Hello?
Vincent.
Hello, can
Yes,
you
you
hear
dropped
me?
out. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I dropped out. I dropped out. I got a phone call. Um, anyway, well, the point is that, well, I don't understand why. Okay, I don't think people are smart enough to sit there and disprove Christian Science. I don't think, like, how do you prove that matter is, it's all spirit and there is no matter and these different kinds of things? How do you, like, fight that? That would be a very deep metaphysical debate, but people just drop it because they say, well, you're crazy. You know what I mean? People don't give it any mind because we know that these mental mind sciences don't work, right? And if the thing is that I got really interested because I went to a Christian Science church. So this is what happened to me. I was
Oh,
walking
when
home
was
when
that?
it was in New York City, Manhattan,
Mm-hmm.
and I went.
Recently?
No, 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 no. This was in my 20s. I went, it was early 20s. I was walking home from work in Manhattan, and I came across a Christian Science church on Central Park West in Manhattan, and it's a very famous Christian Science church, as I would later learn.
Mm-hmm.
And like all Christian Science churches, it was quite impressive. Um, and so I went inside, and just as I was going inside, a meeting was starting. It was their Wednesday night confessional meeting. So this is where people confess healings. But there was a little talk before the healings and these kinds of things. And I wish I could just remember if I could distill what they taught me, because I listened to it and then I got out of the Christian Science church and I'm walking home and I'm thinking about what I just learned. And all of a sudden, this weird sensation came over my body and my brain. And I felt like I was on drugs for a second. And I thought that I was able to walk through walls. Now, it passed like just as quickly as it came on. I almost tried walking through a wall to my side, but I came to my senses before I even tried. But just thinking about it now, I mean, if you believed that, you could get addicted to that spiritual sensation that I felt.
So what do you think caused it? So at that meeting you went to at the First Church of Christ, is that the one you're talking about in New York City?
Probably it was probably the First Church of Christ Scientists
In Central
in,
Park West,
yes,
96th Street, in the
yes,
Upper West Side?
yes, Central, yes, yes, that was it. First Church of Christ Scientists, New York City. Um, yes, that's where I went. And
They were talking about walking through walls in the meeting you went to.
no, no, no. They weren't talking about walking through walls in the meeting. I don't think Christian Scientists. The thing is that I don't think the Christian Science Church would say that to you, but there are Christian scientists who believe that. Because when I read Ms. Eddie by Edwin Dankin, excuse me, which is on christiansciencehinduism.blogspot.com, you can find it. There were Christian scientists claiming they were walking through walls in the 1900s, early 1900s. So it would lead you to believe that. And just like it would lead you to believe that you can heal the sick. So it stuck with me, this idea of it was a very weird sensation, and like for a millisecond I actually believed it, and it led to that conclusion in my brain, oh my god, I can walk through walls. But obviously I can't walk through walls, and I think that anything that would lead you to believe that is necessarily false, right? I mean, if you heard some kind of logical thing and it led you to believe you would have supernatural powers if it was true, I mean, you would be more likely to reject it, right?
Well, it depends on how much you want to believe in it, I guess. So you're saying you got the idea. So the meeting that you attended didn't mention anything about walking through walls, but you knew that Christian scientists would talk about walking through walls, and that's what gave you that idea.
Well, yes, I knew. Well, it just was a logical conclusion of what I had just learned. I thought to myself, oh my God, I can walk through walls. And I wasn't the only one. It wasn't, I know the Church of Christian Science doesn't tell you that. I don't think if you went to a Church of Christ Science, I mean, to tell you that you can heal yourself and raise the dead is enough. Do you know their motto is raise the dead? That's one of their mottos. Is it? Do you ever see their symbol, the Christian Science symbol?
No, I haven't.
Christian Science symbol. What does it say on it? It says heal the sick, raise the dead, cast out demons, cleanse the lepers.
Right. And there's a crown
Crown and
superimposed on the cross.
yes, which is a
Right.
Freemason symbol. Now, I have that other blog on Christian Science, bewiseserpents.blogspot.com. And there you will see the links between Judeo Freemasonry and Christian Science, and they're quite extensive. Um, Her husband was a Freemason, and Freemasonry was the only secret society you were allowed to join if you were a Christian Scientist. You couldn't join any other secret society. Freemasons built a pyramid for her when she died. And Jews were very interested in Christian Science because there's no Trinity. And actually, Jews were so scared, so many Jews were converting to Christian Science that the rabbis invented something called Jewish Science, which didn't go quite as far as Christian Science and saying matter wasn't real, but it was basically more of an attempt to mix Judaism with healing. Let's just look up Jewish Science. Jewish Science, New Thought Movement, Rabbi Alfred Geiger Moses in the early 1900s in response to the growing influence of Christian Science and the New Thought movement. Rather than the paternal God figure encountered in Hebrew tradition, Jewish science views God as an energy of force penetrating the reality of the universe. God is the source of all reality and not separate from, but a real part of our world. His fundamental teachings are found in his 1916 book, Jewish Science, Divine Healing in Judaism. The movement was institutionalized in 1922 with Rabbi Morris Lichtenstein's founding of the Society of Jewish Science.
Well, I
Yeah,
guess, but seances. I think Jewish women were into that, but then I can see a certain appeal to seances. It's like the Ouija board, isn't it? Some people just like the idea of being able to, communicate with spirits or summon them or something like that. So if you like that sort of thing, then you'd be attracted to certain cults and things.
I'm looking at his book right now, Jewish Science. Oh yeah, he does mention Christian Science 51 times.
So,
Christian Science and similar faiths are not needed by by the true Jew who knows and loves his religion. But they were very scared because so many Jews. There's actually a list of Jews who were prominent in Christian Science, and
but I don't imagine that these Jews took their Judaism very seriously. They just happened to be Jews dabbling around, dabbling with these
well,
ideas.
the thing is that rabbis have said, or I think he was a rabbi. Who was he? He was a Jewish rabbi. Yes, he was a Jewish rabbi. Said he converted to Christian Science because there was no Trinity.
Yeah, I mean, I know Jews who convert to Quakerism because they think, well, at least we don't have to believe in the Trinity, and they'll just find the I guess a combination of the least controversial but respectable religion, and then they go for that one.
I don't know. We would have to see if Jewish science is idolatry because, well, isn't Ein Sof kind of idolatry a little bit?
What is what idolatry?
Ein Sof. You don't know what Ein Sof is? You know what
No,
Ein
what's
Sof?
that? Never heard of it. What's that?
Ein Sof, blah blah blah, in Kabbalah is understood as God prior to any self manifestation in the production of any spiritual realm, probably derived from the endless one. Ein Sof may be translated as unending, no end, or infinity. It was first used by Azrael, who's sharing the Neoplatonic belief that God can have no desire, thought, word, or action, emphasized by it the negation of any attribute. Let's see. I think Ein Sof is in the material. So, okay, wait. Remained within a
How do you spell
vacuum.
it? Mm.
EIN space SOF. Ein Sof. Let's see if it's pantheism. Ein Sof and pantheism. Kabbalah and pantheism. Um, God, is Ein Sof pantheism? Let's see. Acidic June. Let's see if it does say pantheism in the Wikipedia article. It doesn't say pantheism there. See, I didn't think the Jews are always very careful about avoiding idolatry.
No, because there's already different kinds of Jews, Reform Judaism, and the proper kind. So these people might call themselves rabbis, but if they're the wrong kind of Jew, then everything will be wrong. And I think a lot of people think, oh well, maybe I can make some money out of this religion thing, and I'll just pick and mix and start my own cult, and there's no law against that. So I think that's probably what happened. And particularly in America, anybody can start their own cult.
Well, you can do it in Europe too, but okay.
Yeah, I suppose it's sort of less accepted in Europe because of the established church and the stricter regime. But yes, nowadays you can, because nobody takes religion seriously, and nobody even insists on the principles of their religion. And if they do, they're denounced as fanatics. I mean, I guess people might say, oh, I'm some sort of fanatic by going on about idolatry, but I'm just saying, it does say that it is forbidden. But I know in practice people don't care, but we're talking about the theory anyway.
Okay, it says that Kabbalah is panentheism instead of
What exactly is the difference between pantheism and panentheism? I'm supposed to know this, but I've forgotten.
Panentheism, a belief or doctrine that God is greater than the universe, includes and interprets it. Panentheism is the belief that the divine intersects every part of the universe and also extends beyond space and time. The term was coined by German philosopher Karl Kraus after reviewing Hindu scriptures to distinguish the ideas of George William Friedrich Hegel and Frederick Wilhelm Joseph Schelling about the relationship of God in the universe from the supposed pantheism of Baruch Spinoza. Unlike pantheism, which holds that the divine and the universe are identical, panentheism maintains an ontological distinction between the divine and the non-divine and the significance of both. Panentheism, the universe spirit, is present everywhere, which is at the same time transcends all things created. Okay, so in pantheism, God doesn't transcend the creation, but in panentheism, he is both the creation and transcends the creation.
Mm-hmm. It's not something I fight anybody about.
Hindu thought is highly characterized by panentheism and wait, like in Kabbalah concept, Tismism. Okay, have you heard of Tismism?
How do you spell
TZ
it?
TZIMTZUM is a term used in Lurianic Kabbalah to explain Isaac Luria's doctrine that God began the process of creation by contracting his own or Ein Sof, infinite light, in order to allow for a conceptual space in which finite and seemingly independent realm could exist. It does have to do with something to do with the Ein Sof. This primordial initial contracting forming a halal hapunai, vacant space into which new creative light could beam, is denoted by general reference to the Tismitzum. In Kabbalistic interpretations, Tismitzum gives rise to the paradox of simultaneous divine presence and absence within the vacuum and resulting creation. Various approaches exist then with orthodoxy as to how the paradox may be solved and as the nature of Tismitzum itself.
Thank you. I
Well,
think I just prefer the simplicity of Judaism and Islam. I mean,
well, yes, but I mean, the problem is, Claire, is that most people are not like us. And like, I do prefer kind of like the straightforward shit, but people like this stuff because then they can sound smart without really saying anything or knowing what the fuck they're talking about.
yes.
You know what I mean?
Mumbo
Like,
jumbo and hocus pocus.
they want to sound smart and they want to sound sophisticated. And I don't think most people who talk about these things really understand what they're talking about.
Yeah, I think people just want to be, like this mysterious thing that I know. Let me tell you all about it. And that's basically it. I have some esoteric information you might like to know about it. And then you'll have to listen to me. And that's enough to talk about it, I guess.
Well,
Even though it's no use.
I think that it is important to try to contradict these ideas because, it's Claire, most people aren't like you. Most people are taken in by this kind of stuff and it sounds so complicated and so therefore it must be intellectual and true, right? Because it's like sounds like you're reading friggin' some kind of textbook on something, you know what I mean? Like and well, that's the thing. And then no rational minded person deals with it. But most people aren't rational minded people.
Which is why they need protection from their government, which is in a way. But in practice, the American government just says, well, if people are just so stupid, they'll just be parted from their money, which is kind of what they said about Herbert Armstrong. I mean, that was that 60 Minutes, not quite 60 Minutes interview we were watching, because in the end they were saying, but should it be allowed that these people who are just making stuff up, should they be allowed to fleece the American public? And the answer seems to be yes. And maybe Americans might shouldn't want to be the land of cults, because you're actually giving the green light to lots of snake oil salesmen who have psychologized the average person who, not the average person, but the typical person who likes this sort of thing. They would be female or pretentious, so they think they can trick people into believing in it and make money out of it. I mean, a lot of these things aren't even religion, it's sort of, I don't know, psychotherapy or whatever.
Well, I mean, whatever it is, it's just that you think you can just, in your opinion, just not even deal with it and just move on. And I think that you're doing yourself a disservice that, like, at least, and also, I do care because as the Jehovah's Witness, we have books on how to counter other religions, which, to be honest, I wouldn't trust them, because the thing is, they don't want you thinking too deeply about other people's religions, because you might get misled, according to them.
You might
But
find
they,
that other religions more attractive than your own.
yes, but they did have books on how to counter them. They did have, they had, like, how to talk to a Hindu, how to talk to a Jew, how to talk to this person, you know what I mean, and how to deconstruct their religion. But it wasn't deep stuff. It wasn't like, I'm sure it was very shallow. Like, I remember, Hindus worship in temples where there's rats and plagues, like shallow stuff, like, shallow things that probably, weren't taking you that deeply. And, the Bible does warn against highfalutin philosophies, or at least that's what I was taught, that, yeah, you're not supposed to fall for these highfalutin, highly intellectual ideologies.
So can you remember what you would say to a Jew or a Muslim, etc.?
Hold on, let me see if I can look it up. I think that was in the reasoning book, or no, was that at the back of the Bible? Hold on.
Well, I suppose that the people who are most difficult to persuade would be your fellow Christians, the Catholics and the Episcopalians and Mormons.
Well, you would just sit there and, like, talk to them. Hold on, let me see something. Oh. I would have to find. Oh, wait. World Religions, Jehovah's Witness book. Where was it? It was a red book, I remember. I don't see I don't see the book on it. I can't remember what the book was called, but I remember reading it. I remember looking through it, and they explain the religion, in again, in, like, trite, they didn't want you getting too many ideas, which is,
Yeah, I suppose it assumes that most people of other religions don't have much knowledge of their religion.
Yeah, but I mean, they're not going to get you into the deep nitty gritty so that you convert. I mean, they're just going to show you anything that makes it look absurd or wrong, or anything that they can pick at. But
how would you deal with Catholics, though? Or Episcopalians? I was just wondering.
oh, what's this? Oh my God!
What?
Oh my God! This is brand new. That they dispensed. I'm surprised that they did this. They dispensed with tracking how many hours you put in. I mean, I told you, they make sure you do what you have to do. You have to report how many hours you put in the field service in preaching and door knocking. You actually have to report that to them. But now they dispensed with that, and you no longer have to report it, which I would think that that's more for administrative. I would think that that's more to reduce administrative problems, or administrative costs, than it is. So I am surprised that they gave in on that.
So lower standards for everything, everywhere.
Yeah, they're lowering their standards. I mean, I don't know. I mean, they would still encourage you to go out. I don't know if necessarily not tracking you is lowering your standards, but well, they're not telling them to preach any less. I can tell you that right now.
Hmm. Have you ever had Jehovah's Witnesses knocking on your door?
Yes, I have, and I get nervous because they do kind of keep tabs on troublemakers.
I mean, if they knocked on your door, would they kind of know who you are?
One of them
Like you?
did. One came to my house, and I knew who she was, and I was very upset that she was there.
Oh. So you sent her away. You didn't invite her in.
Well, my roommate had invited her in, and I didn't know it. And then I came out, and she was there, and I was like, "Oh God!" I thought it was horrible. I didn't
You
want her
felt
in
you were
the.
being stalked.
Yeah, because I knew she was going to go tell everyone. Well, guess who I ran into?
Hmm. But
But it's hard.
then,
Mm?
carry on. But then, I mean, you wouldn't get to hear about it because you were no longer talking to these people.
Yeah, no, but it does make me feel uncomfortable. You know what I mean?
Mm.
They keep lists on people, and they write down in their little book with your address if you're hostile or whatever. You
Well,
know.
political parties do that. I mean,
Yeah,
just to warn
I
other
mean,
people, what to expect when they knock on your door next time.
yeah, no, I mean it's they do. They keep little records, and they're very organized, and they're very yes, they are very organized, and you know, I'm surprised they're no longer tracking hours because that's one of their biggest things. And but if I was them, I would dispense with that door knocking. That is so invasive, and it's the biggest. I think there are like probably. I think there would be 3 times as many Jehovah's Witnesses out there because people don't want to do that. A lot of people don't become Jehovah's Witnesses because they don't want to fucking knock on people's doors and disturb them. That's why a lot of people don't get baptized because um, they don't want to have to do that.
Yeah,
Would you want to do that?
sort of think it might be fun. And maybe when I was younger, that would horrify me, and no way would I do it. But then I suppose when I got involved in politics, I have done a bit of canvassing. And I sort of enjoyed it, even people who were not happy to see me. So, and then I thought, oh, it can be fun. But possibly when I was much younger, I probably would not have enjoyed the idea at all.
No, it's horrible. And people don't really want you there, and it feels invasive, and you're going up on their property. I used to hate like these. There would be signs no trespassing, and they would just totally ignore it. They
Until they
would just
got the shotgun out or something.
oh, that happens. Oh, there's always stories like that of people who take out guns, and you know what I mean. And of course, there's always stories about that. Everyone has a gun story. I mean, every congregation, at least someone has had a gun taken out on them. You know what I mean? Like, and they're just, because people don't want you on their property, and then you're the subversive cult, and you're trying to take them away from their families and their children, and trying to get them to stop seeing their relatives, and you know what I mean? It's very subversive, and
Mm.
not join the military and not salute the flag, and lots of subversive content there that
Hmm.
people are upset about, and I can understand. You know what I mean? I guess it's just sometimes people are too aggressive about their hatred, and then they have we're persecuted. They're they're so into their persecution. I mean, everything is about how they're hated and how the world hates them, and that proves that that, you know,
The
Jehovah,
martyrs.
yes, they're martyrs, and it shows that they're true God's true people because people reject them, and you know, it's just they you know, it's this pity party. You know, everything's a pity party with them.
Is there a religion you'd actually like to belong to? I mean, just for, I don't know, maybe shallow status reasons.
I don't know. No, I don't even think I'd
I
want to
mean,
be
you don't want
part.
to be a Mormon, do you?
No, I don't even think I want to be a member of the Church of Satan. You know what I mean? I I don't even want to be a member of that.
But you do like talking about theology. That's too I. Hmm.
Yes, but not even no, like I don't even fucking understand this fucking shit that I was reading about Hinduism and gaining these city powers. It's such complicated, weird shit. I can't even understand what they're talking about. You know what I mean? And it just like, you know, I don't really think that we debate theology, to be honest with you. We don't debate like I mean the most that we ever debate is whether God takes shape, whether God is many. But like all of this Ein Sof panentheism versus pantheism, like, you know, it's just not my thing.
I mean, my memory of dealings with Jehovah's Witnesses is that they start talking to you about, the government and, bread and butter issues. And that's how they suck you in. And, usually the householder, just can't wait to give somebody the benefit of their political opinion. And that's why I thought that's so successful as a ploy. How do you feel about your government? It's like, what? Come in and I'll tell you.
Yes, what do you feel about your government?
Which I thought was a brilliant toy.
What do you think about your government? Yes, and if you notice, they always have little issues. So their magazines, abortion, gay marriage, pollution. You know, it's always like some kind of like hot button issue, and it's always some kind of hot button issue. And yes, they just try to get you involved and upset and thinking and put you in.
Engaging.
Yeah, well, just put up some billboards and a website and let people come to you. You know what I mean? Don't go bothering people. You know what I mean?
But
Like,
people won't come to you. It's better to just sort of make them invite you to their homes. Because then they
well, in other countries they do. In certain countries, the thing is that they have waiting lists for people to get Bible studies, which, it's that Bible study thing is not always the most, what's it called, efficient because, they run out of people to go teach because they do at-home Bible studies, right? Though I don't, they probably do online Bible studies now. You know what I mean?
hmm. So basically, I haven't been okay. I haven't been to a Bible study class. So you're just told to read a few verses and discuss them. Yes, that's basically it, or a whole
No, there's
chapter,
this,
or what?
there's a study guide. So I don't know what study that guide they use now, but there's a study guide, and you read the study guide, and then it gives you the scriptures to look up, and you look up the scriptures while you're studying it, and you open the Bible, and then you read the scripture, and then you discuss it, and then you answer questions. You have to answer questions, and that's basically it. To make sure that you understand what you're reading, you have to tell you know, answer it to the the person who's conducting your Bible study in your home.
Right, and is it about a particular verse that you concentrate on more than anything else? I mean,
No, it's by topic. It's like, you discuss a topic, you go by topic. That's the way Charles Taze Russell did Bible studies, by topic.
mhm,
Um, and instead of just actually sitting there and reading the Bible cover to cover, they select out the scriptures that they want and they kind of organize them into a body of knowledge, which is
mhm,
makes it a little bit easier to understand, complicated things, because you don't want complicated information that's related to each other 40 pages in between, different topics, because
mhm, mhm,
you're gonna forget what you read, or what was written, or you're gonna forget the point. So
mhm.
they just bring it all together for you.
Were there any kind of topics that kept coming up, some more than others?
A lot of it is about prophecy and the end of the world. That's what they kind of focus on, right? It's really what they do focus on, is prophecy and the end of the world, and the system is coming to an end, and politics, and the Anglo-American Empire and the United Nations, and
Mhm.
these different kinds of more political things. I don't know what they're doing now. I don't know how they're changing. I just don't know what they're doing. You know what I mean? But I don't know what they're doing. But whatever they're doing, it makes a very well. I was reading, most people who are Jehovah's Witnesses only have a high school diploma, and they speak better. They have elevated, they speak better than the general population. They have a more extended vocabulary than the general population does, even though all of them don't go to college. And,
Yeah, I mean, I knew I was talking to a 19-year-old Mormon, and I thought he was in his 70s because he was so educated that I assumed that, and he was only 19. But yeah, this was a Mormon. But I was
yeah,
very
well,
impressed.
they have the same kind of system, similar, but
Mm.
they've, yes, they're more articulate than the general population, and deeper, and more profound, and talking about subjects that are, you know like, it's not fucking Telegram right wing bimbos that were raised in mainstream culture posting gay porn. I mean, it's a little bit elevated over all that. And you know what I mean? And, and that's also part of the reason why these people don't want that. I mean, most people don't want that, to be honest with you. That's why these religions are small, because most people don't want that shit. They want McDonald's, hot dogs, hamburgers, you know, they don't want caviar and all this other kind of stuff. That's not what they're looking for.
Do you ever want to just join them and go on, what's it? Is it called field service? Is it?
Field service, yes.
Do you hanker to do that again, or just what for one day?
No, no, I don't want to do field service ever again. You
No,
know,
just to see how people are these days.
no,
Okay,
I'm sure it's getting
sounds like
worse.
it'd be quite good. But
I'm sure things are much worse than when, you know what I mean? Like, well, the thing is that, yes, the old Jehovah's Witnesses used to talk about how back in my day, people actually cared and would come out with the Bible and would want to discuss scripture with us. And these days, everyone just doesn't give a shit and doesn't care about anything. And I'm sure it would be, no, when I was young, this is, still, when I was young, America still wasn't that biblical anymore. I mean, it wasn't that Christian of a nation anymore when I was young. So, I mean, did most people give a shit? No, but they would talk about, oh, well, in the Bible Belt, it's so much easier because people want to talk to you and they want to convert you, so they're willing to have a discussion. And, when the country was much more Christian, yes, field service was a lot more, um, it was a lot more. And people could attend Bible camps for 8 days. People can't do that. And people, nobody's going to be able to sit through 8 days of Bible camp. That's not what they called it, but, conventions on the Bible anymore. I mean, by the time I was a child, conventions were at most 3 days. They were between 1 and 3 days. And but they used to tell me, "Oh, you don't know what it used to be like when I was a child. We had to go for 8 days." Blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? Like, but people just can't fucking do that shit anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, people just can't sit through that kind of stuff anymore. And yeah, no. So I'm sure it's worse these days. I'm sure people care even less than when
But
I.
but yeah. But don't you think it's still the way forward if you want to change people's minds about stuff? Because, ultimately the most powerful being has to be, well, referred to, invoked. And because for politics it's always, well, God supports me, God agrees with me. And so I don't, it might be horribly simplified, but it will still be used. Because I mean, the most simplified form would be, well, like Paula White, a Trump spiritual advisor.
Yes, Kabbalah Queen.
Is that what they call her?
They
Kabbalah
call her.
Queen.
They call her. Paula Shite is what they call her.
Oh,
Yeah, Paula Shite. Because she's a Zionist and all this other kind of stuff. They call her Paula Shite. I've seen that.
oh, right. I didn't know they were being so rude. But I mean, the last one I saw her, she was on Twitter. It was a live stream, and then she talked about stuff I can't even remember. But there was this guy in the background playing soothing music on the grand piano,
Yeah, you
and I
sent that
thought,
to me, and I was watching it. It was her husband.
oh, was it okay? I mean,
No,
I don't know how people can put it, keep a straight face, but yeah.
Paula Shite. Yeah, she's just a problem. She's just a problem. They're all problems. They're all problems, and they all suck, and she sucks, and
I
Trump
mean,
sucks.
do you ever imagine yourself, giving a kind of, I don't know what they call it, fireside talk, and it'll be just Vincent stroking his cat beside a fire, smoking a pipe, telling a story. What
No,
would you
God, I
say?
I find that so corny when people actually name their stream Fireside Chat. Where did that come from? Who did that first? And it was called Fireside Chat. Who
I
was it?
think it was an American thing.
I think it was a president who first did it, like Eisenhower or somebody. Let's look that up. Who was the first Fireside Chat? I mean, it all comes from this one first person who did it. Original Fireside Chat. Roosevelt. It was Roosevelt who for Fireside Chats
Oh.
was Franklin D. Roosevelt. Series of evening radio
Mhm.
addresses given by Franklin D. Roosevelt. Yeah,
Can we listen to
yeah.
some of them? I think it might be fun to listen to an old one.
To an
It's,
old
if you,
Fireside Chat,
yeah,
and
I'm on
then
Wikipedia.
but it's pathetic when people like, what's his name? Do you know this Invictus? Soul Invictus? You've heard of him, right?
I'm not sure. Yeah, I have heard the thing, but I'm not really sure what it's about.
Soul Invictus. This is what he changed his name to. Where's hold on. He's just this totally pathetic Augustus Soul Invictus. Augustus Soul Invictus, whose real name, okay, here's a Wikipedia article. Oh wow, here he looks horrible. I don't know what happened to him. Well, he looks like he's been doing drugs. Um, Austin Mitchell Gillespie is an American far right political activist, attorney, blogger, and white nationalist. And he did fireside chats, and he puts on this fake Southern accent that disappears. That disappears. He sacrificed a goat in the desert. Tells people to do drugs and practice sorcery, and like he just he ran. That's right. 2006, he ran for U.S. Senate, and he did these fucking fireside chats, and it's just it was it was pathetic for him to and he would sit there like in his little couch and like let's look up his fireside chats.
But
I think it's
do
very.
you think we should sort of work towards one? You do your Beyonders fireside chat, and I do my secular Coronas. I think it'd be hilarious. We could try.
Yeah, he did fireside chats, and let me just see it. I'm trying to find an
We
image
could
of it.
hear some of it and maybe get the style.
Oh my god, what happened? He looks. Now I'm seeing his picture. He looks horrible. When was this? 3 years ago. God, it looks like he's been on drugs.
Can you please post me a link so I know what you're talking about?
Hold on, let me send you his Wikipedia. He got a tattoo from Jack Donovan. Hold on, let me send this to you on what's it called? I'm sending it to you on Telegram.
Okay. He looks like he's got grey hair already.
Yeah, now he does. He used to look better, but I just saw a mugshot of him and he looked like he was on drugs.
It looks like a prison photo. Oh, I can't imagine him doing a fireside chat. But maybe we're capable of it after studying the style. I think it'd be amusing. To imagine that people might be listening eagerly and respectfully. I guess I'll have to listen to a few of Roosevelt, so I get the hang of it. But maybe women can't do it. Maybe only men can.
What, fireside chats?
Yes.
No, I'm sure women can.
Do you think? Well, I guess a queen when she was alive did something like that, but she was very, very stiff. Nick Griffin did something years ago, and it was just so comical. He had a cat, and the cat was on his lap, and he was stroking it like he was a Bond supervillain, and talking about Christmas, and he was telling us the nativity tale or something, and somehow relating it to immigrants. I seem to remember, but it was quite amusing, and we all had a good laugh.
Hold on, I found one of his. Oh, here's a fireside chat, but it doesn't show his face. He's not sitting there. Though
Okay.
I did find one of his fireside chats on fascism. this is just, it's corny. I mean, I would never title my thing Fireside Chat because that just sounds so like wannabe.
I suppose the whole idea of fireside would be cozy, that you're, being treated as a guest, by a gracious host. I mean, how do you imagine you transmitting your message about, the benefits of beyondism?
Well, I wouldn't do it that way. I don't, like, I just don't want to do anything corny and like, like I feel as though it's hard enough, people consider it corny whenever you do anything intellectual anyway. So like, I don't want to ham it up anymore.
Hmm.
This ugly,
Yes,
hideous Hindu Mexican woman is making fun of me for my Christian Science blog. I mean, the thing is that I'm not the one selling snake oil here.
hmm. So why is this? What is this woman saying? She's still a Hindu, and she's mocking you for no longer being a Hindu.
Hmm. Yeah, this fucking bitch who believes in city powers is going to be mocking me.
It's a pity she can't join us.
She's too cowardly. She has nothing to say except for little trite comments. She has no intellectual friggin' basis. She's no, she's just. I don't even think she thought about these things. I mean, people don't think about these things. I'm sure, she doesn't understand what she's learning.
Well, I was actually talking to somebody about American history, um, Christian Christian goings on in early America and stuff, and even Christian nationalism. Anyway, I sent you the space that we were on, and you might find it of interest.
Who are you on a space with who?
Well, he said he was related or direct descendant of some American president. I'm afraid I can't remember his name now, but he was totally unfamiliar. But he did seem to know a lot about American history, and he's some sort of Baptist. Anyway, he's on Twitter, and you can find his face, and you might find it of interest. There was some theology discussed. But yeah, he's a Christian nationalist. And I was saying, no, you can't do that. If you pass a Christian amendment, it means the end of the First Amendment. Surely you can't want to do that. You can't want to negate the achievements of the founding fathers. And it's just sort of, oh, but he doesn't even care. Not really. I mean, you can't even tell, people are so confused. You can't even tell an American that he's being un-American. Or
No,
I guess once upon a time, if you told an American he was being un-American, he'd be really offended. But these days, they don't care.
hmm
Well, Jay and Elliot are in the chat, but I mean, I posted the link, but I guess they're not really up to arguing with us. But look, I think the problem is hierarchy and this egalitarianism is all wrong. So the French Revolution, I'm afraid, is all wrong because really the entire West is the hippie movement because officially no one's in charge because we're all equal. So there's nobody really, brave enough to claim authority, to assert authority, because they probably think they're going to get shouted down and called a fascist or something. So they don't assert power, and they do everything by underhanded means through the CIA, through censorship, and you know. So everything is opaque. And I think that's the problem. And even to convey this message to whoever's in charge will be very difficult. But it's not a problem that, started yesterday. I mean, do you agree that that might be the problem? There's no ordered hierarchy for you to
Well,
even find the person in charge.
yeah, I mean, I don't know if we need an ordered hierarchy, but well, yes, I mean, you want a little bit of an egalitarian society. You don't want some fucking, authoritarian, militant, military, kind of, top down, no questions, don't question, just follow orders. You don't want that either.
Well, yeah, you want a happy medium, but you still want some kind of, okay, what we can agree on, I think, is a meritocracy. So it's like, the people at the top deserve to be at the top, and the people at the bottom deserve to be at the bottom. And people may go up and they may come down depending on their performance and whatever. And I think that's fair enough. Because people, nobody's going to say, "Oh, I don't want to live in a meritocracy. I want to live in a caste system," you know. So people would be shamed into saying, "Well, okay, a meritocracy, ideally is something most people would agree on." Nobody's saying, "Oh, no, no, I prefer the caste system," in India, because people would then look at them funny and think, well, that's kind of like saying you want apartheid.
I'm listening. I'm listening. I'm just doing something
And
that
all
I am.
these ideas are about freedom of association, which is to do with liberalism, because liberalism is the idea of freedom of association. And it's sort of like, an alien, he comes from outer space and gets out of his flying saucer. He wants to talk to the person in charge. And he keeps asking and he never gets a straight answer. But I think any group kind of needs to be able to say who their leader is without it, being some huge controversy. And we haven't got that. And that's why everything's so opaque. And I guess that's why people keep blaming the Jews. Because if they can't see who's in charge, they'll just blame the Jews.
I'm listening. I'm just doing something.
Yeah. Okay. And my other little idea is okay. So I mentioned this thing that I talked to you yesterday about the, dividing people into registers, having registers for Jews and Gentiles who will be divided into Christians and Hindus and Buddhists and cults and agnostic, atheist, nihilists. And testing them for their honesty and the soundness of their reasoning, and basically forcing them to adhere to the no-hike laws, or at least 5 of them. And I think it's possible to kind of give people marks, grade people for their honesty and reasonableness, and, adherence to the 5 principles. And in this way, you build up a way of grading, being able to grade people according to their principle, their moral integrity and stuff. Do you think that's a good idea? I mean, wouldn't it be nice if this could be done?
Well, but most people are not going. Most people are not. Don't really stay with something because they're so principled. I mean, most people, if they had to articulate Christian principles, wouldn't be Christian.
Well, I mean, okay, I'm just sort of catering for atheists and agnostics who are a bit offended if people just assume that they have no morals if they're atheists or agnostics. So you say, well, what principles do you have then? And obviously they can't say, I have the principle of not telling the truth, or I have the principle of believing in nonsense, and not being able to be persuaded by arguments, and that I mean, so really, I guess I'm trying to say that atheists and agnostics would actually be more vigorously tested than the other religions, because people will just be assumed that, oh, so you're Jewish or Christian, and you're supposed to blah blah blah, and the people in your group will be your judge, because you already have agreed principles that you're supposed to follow. But our group, the group of agnostics and atheists, will not all have the same list of principles, so they would have to be more vigorously tested, for honesty and ability to exercise logic, and what kind of principles they hold. Because I mean, don't you think it's useful for to test the moral integrity of people in high places? To see that that they're not liars, that they can be persuaded by argument, that sort of thing. And if they're liars and they can't, and don't care about the arguments, you just dismiss their opinions. Wouldn't that be a way of sorting the wheat out from the chaff? I don't know what's happened to Vincent.
I'm here.
Okay.
You hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I saw that you were muted.
I'm just doing some dishes.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm about to finish in a second.
Mm-hmm. Well, nobody wants to join us.
What do you mean nobody wants to join us?
Well, I suppose Elliot could join us, Jay could join us, but they're not. Do you want to say anything about Elliot and Jay?
Well, I mean, besides Elliot. Elliot is Jewish, right?
Yes, or half Jewish. Or not, he's a Jew-boo, isn't he?
A Jew-boo?
a Jew who's a Buddhist.
Oh. Oh.
And I was giving him a bit of a hard time because he was talking to Luke, and then they both agreed that there was no point in having principles. And that kind of triggered me, really. But it's so terrible. It's like, why did Luke convert to Judaism? It wasn't because he believed in God. He just saw Judaism as a kind of exclusive club. Oh yes, I know. It's because he was reacting against his father, who was a Seventh-day Adventist theologian with some really, really weird ideas. I don't even know what the controversy Desmond Ford was caught up in, because apparently he was on the wrong side of the argument, and was kind of kicked out of Seventh-day Adventism. Do you know any of those people?
Luke Ford's father that got thrown out of the Seventh Day Adventist Church?
Yes.
No, I mean, I know you sent me a Wikipedia article on it. I still need to read through that.
Yeah, well, I tried reading it. It's so complicated. And I know that once upon a time I did actually sit down and try and understand it, and I thought I did, but it's all forgotten now. And I know that Luke had a terrible childhood, which I guess he would blame on his father. And I have a theory that he converted to Judaism as a way of making a point against his father, I guess. And maybe way back then he thought becoming an Orthodox Jew would protect him from, um, you know, being called an anti-Semite. Mhm.
Hmm.
But it hasn't really, because actually the censorship is not just against Gentiles. A lot of Jews can't say a lot of things now if they go against, feminism, woke ideology, and all that.
Hmm.
And also, because of increasing censorship, we have to be even more effective at using words and saying whatever we need to say quickly and clearly, because people don't have time to listen to us think aloud. And what I've noticed is a lot of people want to make people listen to them think aloud, and it's really boring. Or most people aren't able to think quickly enough, and so they become boards. And people are actually very inconsiderate of people's time
Yes.
when they talk nonsense, or maybe they can't help themselves. But anyway, I don't think people should think aloud. Well, okay, maybe sometimes I do when I have a monologue. Or what I find is people interrupt each other, and they usually say, "But just stop interrupting. I'm still talking. I haven't finished making my point." And the other person would say, "If I don't say it now, I'll forget my most important thought." And then I find with older people, they it's sort of like, you talk and you talk, and then you come onto a subject, and that seems to be a trigger for certain people, and it's like, one of those dolls that there's a string and you pull it, and it probably says something like howdy or whatever it's meant to say. And a lot of people have to say the same thing every time a certain subject is alighted on, and you can't even stop them. It's like, I've started, so I'll finish. And then you say things like, well, I've heard it 1,000 times before, and they can't stop themselves. They have to finish the thing that they wanted to say. I guess it happens to older people more than young people.
Mm. Yeah, they're telling me in the cube that even questioning these things is nonsense. I mean, just having questions is nonsense. They don't even like questions. I mean, what the fuck? I just don't understand what the fuck is wrong with people.
Well, today, Paul van der Clay was saying he was saying something derogatory about pastors who are therapists using Socratic reasoning, and I think, well, that it's actually quite a good way for therapy, isn't it? You're encouraging the patient to express themselves, and it seems that Christians are now too afraid to even ask questions, to ask and answer questions, because I think they must sense that the time is coming to an end, but they can't defend their ideas, and therefore they don't like being asked questions.
No, they don't like being asked questions. Nobody these days likes being asked questions or asking questions. Things are becoming very anti-intellectual everywhere. Everyone is becoming so anti-intellectual. I mean, I thought that and it's getting worse, but the thing is that when I was young, I feel as though people were just naturally anti-intellectual, and now they're purposely doing it. Like they're actually going out of their way to be anti-intellectual. Like questioning things is just no longer.
Autistic.
Yes, questioning things is autistic.
I suppose they think they live in a post-truth society, and it's like, it doesn't matter if you win the argument because nobody cares anyway.
Yeah, this whole thing that nobody cares about anything. I mean, then why are you even, what are you even complaining about if you don't care about anything? What the fuck are you complaining about?
And people contradict themselves, and you can't. Well, they get annoyed with you if you point out that they contradict themselves. But the thing is, you obviously contradict yourself if you're telling lies. And I guess some people, may inadvertently contradict themselves if they're being illogical, I suppose.
Yeah, well, these people just don't give a flying fuck, and and yes, anything, they're purposely anti-intellectual. It's just not even naturally like that anymore. It's purposely like that, and it's everywhere. It's just, I don't know. I think the internet did it, because now the thing is that you have to face all this information, and they just don't want to face information, and so they just rather not talk about it and make fun of anyone who does talk about it.
Well, I think it's just becoming mass psychosis, and then people will just go mad. Did you listen to this? Tucker Carlson was interviewing this Chinese woman who was talking about how it was during the Cultural Revolution, and her point was that America is undergoing something very similar. which I actually I recommend it because it is quite scary and quite vivid, and that there are certain undeniable parallels.
Between what and what? Between America and what?
But between what this woman was saying when she was a child, when the Cultural Revolution happened, and basically, okay, there were no Jews, but the Chinese basically attacked people in positions of authority. So they were told, oh, anyone in authority, teachers, academics, landlords were bourgeois and therefore an enemy of the people, and they had to be humiliated. And the Red Guards were able to do what they liked, and the police was kind of defunded or told to take a back seat. And then the Red Guards started fighting each other for power, and it got a bit crazy, and some people died. And there was no explanation for it other than Mao approved of the Red Guards. So there was, it wasn't even done officially. It was, just that certain things were ignored, and lots of things were allowed to happen, and nobody cared. Although, actually, there were laws against those things, except that they were ignored, which is kind of what's happening now. In theory, you have your First Amendment, your Second Amendment, and all kinds of rights, but in practice, they are ignored.
They're not fully ignored. I mean, we still have
Not
our
not
guns.
fully, but what they're doing to Trump and getting him up, using lawfare, so
Yeah,
he
but that's
can't
not brave. That's
stand
not
in the
brave.
swing states.
Well, we'll see. I mean, I don't know. That's a little bit different than breaking the Second Amendment, but you know,
Well, I mean, they're trying to erode the Second Amendment by saying, well, if your husband, your ex-husband, is showing signs of, thinking politically incorrect thoughts, well, maybe you can, give a call to the police who might come and take his guns away because you think he might be, potentially, you know, a domestic terrorist, etc. I don't know that, but those sorts of, unofficial ways of undermining whatever rights that are still in place. And maybe the fear that they won't be upheld is enough to frighten people into not asserting those rights. And okay, so basically I'm saying that in order to fight this, some people have to be prepared to, stick out their necks and protest. And if everybody's going to say, oh, it's not me, somebody else can do it, then I think it'll worsen. I mean, I don't know, if Trump is going to get anywhere, or the same thing won't happen again. What do you think he'll be getting politically active or not?
well, I wrote that for the Noahide movement we should promote Trump because he's the Noahide candidate. But I'm not. I don't have. I don't know. I have no. What I have nothing else to write for Trump. He's a fucking asshole, and he's just in league with the Jews, and that's about it. And he's good for nothing except for promoting the Noahide agenda. And I really just wish there was someone better than him. And I think it's really disgusting that in a country of almost 400 million people, in between in the last 4 years, in between the last election and now, nobody besides him was valuable enough. He's the most valuable person in all of America. If Donald Trump is like the greatest hope, then we're in trouble. He's the greatest hope. I mean, that's horrible.
Well, at least you got someone. We haven't anyone like that in Europe at all. I guess beggars can't be choosers, but at least you've got someone who's consistently said the same thing for years and years and years.
Yes,
I mean,
but I
really, there's
mean,
no it all.
it's
You know.
really disappointing, and it's really disappointing. And I mean, at this point, I don't know. I don't, I can't believe that there's nobody in America who's worth anything. There's no one in the whole fucking country that's worth anything. I don't know of one politician that's really worth anything.
So how would you remoralize your ruling classes? I mean, that is a problem, isn't it? It's like, yeah, you can have any number of rules, but if in practice all these rules are ignored, um, what is the problem? How can you know, make it better? This was actually what Colin and I were discussing yesterday. Oh,
Oh, I
your name
mean,
came up a few times.
well, it's like at this point, I think that people just have too low IQ and not the right life experience, and to accomplish it. I don't know. I'm becoming so black pilled. You know what I mean? And I know I can't become clown pilled. I can't become one of these people. But um, yeah, I'm black pilled, and then I'm just like, oh God, you know what I mean? The ruling classes are just garbage. It's just the old generation has to die out, but then I blame. It's like the
But
old
the
generation.
next generation is not much better. In
No,
fact,
it's
they're probably
not.
worse.
No, it's not. And to be honest with you, I feel as though by the time that I get old, nothing's going to be running and we're going to be in a collapse. I don't think young people these days have what it takes to run a country.
Yeah,
I
because they're
don't,
so stupid. And
yeah.
therefore things okay. I really think, we might as well go for broke and just say whatever needs to be said, pulling no punches. Because there's no point. Because even if you tell them and shout at them, they'll pretend not to get it anyway. So you might as well say the thing. So one of the things that Khalid and I disagree on is he just thinks it's possible to. Okay, I think he was getting a bit annoyed with me because I'm still agnostic, and um, and now we have a disagreement about what low hanging fruit is. And I'm saying low hanging fruit is anybody prepared to argue with you about whether the West needs a new religion, considering Christianity is kaput. His idea of low hanging fruit is people who might um, be able to shut up for a minute and listen to him. And I thought, actually, my low hanging fruit is lower than your low hanging fruit because, fundamentally, you have to say, well, what have you got apart from secular Quranism? And if you don't like it, well, I mean, you must be an Islamophobe because you know, you're not really interested in a solution if you're just going to reject the only one, and therefore there is
Oh,
something wrong, and you better get off your high horse, etc.
okay.
And
Well,
if they
I mean,
don't
the
like
thing
you,
is
bad.
that not everyone believes capitalism is bad. Not everyone is going to, just because you don't believe capitalism is bad doesn't mean that I mean, doesn't mean you're a bad person. It doesn't mean that you're an Islamophobe. It doesn't mean any of that. It's just you think that capitalism is the best way to continue forward. And, maybe they're rejecting it because of that. And, that's a big reason to reject secular Quranism, that it bans usury. And you even admit that that would collapse the economy and we would need slavery to make up for it. And maybe people say, well, that's a crazy idea.
Well, I'm saying, history shows us that slavery was what made America great.
Yeah, well, it was
Because
also horrible, and who wants to be a slave? Nobody's going to
nobody wants to
voluntarily.
be any of those things, but it's like when you fall on hard times, this is what you do, and actually, slavery is giving you opportunities for training and contacts and whatever, and it's better than being on welfare because actually slavery was useful in that it facilitated workfare. And workfare was just, okay, we'll give you money so you don't starve, but in return you have to perform some service for the community. But then everybody thought, oh, it's too much. It's just cheaper to give them money. And so people have been doing that, and then people thought, oh, so I can actually claim money without doing work. Yeah, I'll do it if I'm entitled to do it. And so they do, and then the numbers just increase. So at some level, you have to make people do something in return for the money that they need to, keep themselves alive. And that was the purpose of slavery, is what I'm saying. So without it, you'll just have a welfare state that will grow and grow and grow and grow. Because everybody will think, yeah, well, I mean, the whole idea of universal basic income is like, oh, well, we're not even going to means test you or anything. We'll just give it to everybody. Which I think is crazy because, then everybody will want to claim. And then eventually, yeah, the economy will collapse. Because everybody will think, oh, I don't need to work anymore. I can still get by. And slavery was just sort of, the person doesn't starve to death, but obviously they'll have to endure a lowering of their status, which will be mortifying, but they'll get over it. And it will be a warning to others to not, live beyond your means or borrow more money that you can pay back and, start unwise business ventures, etc. It's just warning people that they can fall below the position that they're currently in. And I think that's fair enough, just to show people that, things have consequences and it can't just be, paradise in this life. But really, as long as people think it's fair enough, that should be able, that should be the bargain. And the point of the no hide laws is that I think people think it's fair enough. Most people can be persuaded to think it's fair enough. Or I mean, a lot of people say, oh, we're already doing it. We don't need Jews to tell us about the no hide laws. But so, I mean, really the point is idolatry. And I'm going to have to concentrate on that because it neatly explains why everything has gone wrong. Because being guilty of idolatry means you're not following the Quran. And as for the Muslims who don't follow it, well, they're guilty of hidden idolatry. And this brings us nicely to the subject of Rabbi Misraki saying idolatry is worse than death, than murder.
Yes, which I told you. Yes, idolatry is worse than murder, but Islam allows it. So the idea that, Islam is the right religion just sounds absurd to me.
Well, okay, so my contention as far as the Quran is concerned is that hypocrisy is a manifestation of hidden idolatry. And
Yeah,
hidden
well,
idolatry is just as
hidden
bad as
idolatry.
open idolatry. And because hypocrisy will get you sent to hell.
Hidden idolatry is not an excuse for open idolatry. It's just not. That's just a very weak argument to allow open idolatry. And that's why I would think that it's obvious that God did not send the Quran, because if he thinks that idolatry is worse than murder, why would he allow that? And it's an obvious, glaring, contradiction that doesn't make any sense.
No, because okay, if you're guilty of open idolatry, it means that obviously you're not following the Quran, right? That's what it means. But you can
No,
also.
there's a no. No. If you are bowing before an idol, that's worse than murder, and that's it. I don't care if someone's not praying correctly or whatever it is that you call it. I mean, if you're doing that, you're doing worse than murdering someone, and that's the end of the story. And Islam says, oh, but wait, hold on, because no, no, because this, or we're going to allow it to happen because of that, or somebody prayed incorrectly, and so therefore you're allowed to do something that's worse than murder. It just doesn't make any sense.
Well, it doesn't actually say it's worse than murder, but I mean,
It's the
the
first
stream I
Noahide.
showed
No,
you said.
all the rest of the Noahide laws come out of the first Noahide law. You cannot have the rest of them. You cannot have no murder according to Judaism without no idolatry.
I'm trying to measure the harm of idolatry. So you could say that if you're an idolater, it means you're just not following the Quran, and then all the bad things that happen to you is caused by you not following the Quran. But then there are all these people who claim to be Muslims who are hypocrites and don't follow the Quran, and they also cause harm. And you can possibly measure the harm that they cause by, well, okay, I'm thinking of the worst things that happen in the West. I mean, like, okay, we'll say World War One and World War Two, or maybe the 30 Years' War. I mean, so you could say that the Reformation wouldn't have been necessary if Europeans were already Muslim, because then there would be no need for the wars of the Reformation. And then you tot up how many people got killed during the wars of the Reformation, how many white Christian Europeans got killed over these wars that people now don't give a damn about. I mean, that would be a way of calculating the harm done for Muslims not obeying chapter 18, verse 4, not caring enough about Europeans to convert them to Islam, with the consequence that these Europeans who were Christians declared the Crusades on the Muslims, and then came the Crusaders who mass murdered all those Jews and mass murdered all those Muslims. So, well, they got punished, and it's like, yeah. So through not doing these things that might not appear to you to cause that much harm, you indirectly cause harm, such as the Crusades.
But you're the one who is saying, by saying something is not that harmful, that you're correct causing direct harm, and you're the one that's saying idolatry is not that harmful. You're saying
No,
it's not as you're saying no, it's not as bad as murder. It's you're saying it's just not that bad.
Because it is not punished in this life. But I guess
According to the Quran, yes, the Quran took away the death penalty. Yeah, I don't know why you would do that for something that's
no,
so
but
heinous.
hypocrites.
Who cares? Yeah, well, everyone is supposed to. Yeah, well, it's just lenient with everyone, and it just becomes a free for all, and it's just fine. Just yeah,
No,
dispense.
okay. This is how I think it would happen. So because you're this hypocrite, and you're a Muslim, say, and you don't do this thing that the Quran tells you to do, and millions of people were killed because of your decision, then I think you'll be punished accordingly, in the next life for the harm that you caused, for the sin that you encourage people to practice, etc. I mean, of course, this is not for humans to work out; it's for God in the afterlife to punish you accordingly for all the harm you allowed by not following your Islamic principles if you were an Islamic ruler.
Um, yeah,
So
well, you're soft, and You're just
I'm not being
you're
soft. I'm saying actually,
I
people
know, but
in high places get
who
punished.
cares about nobody's going to care about the afterlife. If they're going to get away with it in this life, they're not going to stop. They're just going to do it.
Okay, so you inculcate a society that uh, believes in the afterlife, I suppose.
Yeah, well, even if you do that, people are not as scared about afterlife punishments as they are about real world punishment. That's like when the Jews say, oh, well, a Jew's not allowed to kill a Gentile because we get punished in the afterlife. Who the fuck gives a fuck about that? You know, oh, wow, that makes everything so much better. The Jew's going to get punished in the afterlife. I feel so much more comfortable with those terms now.
But I mean, why would you be concerned about that? Because if a Jew were to kill a Gentile in a country of Gentiles, they're not going to get away with murder.
No, well, if the Noahide laws were in place, then they would supposed to be. They wouldn't. They wouldn't. They wouldn't get. They wouldn't get. They wouldn't. You know, not if the world was the way they want it to be. And I'm saying that their whole thing. Oh, don't worry, Gentiles. We get punished in the afterlife, and nobody's going to give a shit about that, unless they're, you know, some brainwashed Hindu. You know what I mean? Like.
You're saying people don't really believe, but people can be, um, well, humiliated in this life. Like, people saying you're going to hell for what you did or what you have done.
That's not
So,
enough.
so
That's
even if
just
they don't really believe, people can be shamed in this life. But I mean, obviously, people need to understand the system to be able to say these things, and currently they don't. But it's not impossible for people to understand the system. So I mean, okay, so as far as Jews are concerned, it's like, yeah, they keep getting punished. Nobody likes them because actually they haven't been using the Noahide laws in the correct way. And I'm saying the correct way is what I say they should be doing, but which they won't because they don't want to
no,
offend
you're the
people.
only person on earth who thinks that. Absolutely. I think that that's just absurd. That's like,
Why is
I
it
mean,
absurd?
because you just wouldn't, that's just saying, so the answer is nobody's Noahide. End of story. You know, follow the Noahide laws. Don't follow something that doesn't even hold up to them. You know what I mean? And they're not that hard to follow. You act like this is like some, like, oh my God, like most people, well, the thing is that, okay, if you
Of
don't
course,
consider Christi,
nobody's going to enforce them. So you didn't listen to that video that I sent you of Rabbi Misraki talking about the principles of Judaism. Hold on. So he does talk about them. It's quite an important one. So I hope you watch it. The Foundation of Faith series, number 2, because he does go on about the Noahide laws and he explains. He does say that. Um, Breaking them, any of them incurs the death penalty, blah blah. But he also says, well, we can't do it. I mean, we're so few, we can't be,
they're not supposed
executing.
to. They're not supposed to decapitate Gentiles. Gentiles are supposed to do it to each other.
Well, he doesn't mention that.
No, the Jews are not supposed to go around beheading Gentiles. Gentiles have their own
Yes,
courts. They have their own courts and their own justices. And if you get sentenced for idolatry, you're going to be sentenced by a Gentile, and you're going to be executed by a Gentile, not by a Jew.
yeah, I know, but the thing is, they live in Christian kingdoms or liberal democracy, so none of that is going to happen. But so you were saying, well, what the hell are we supposed to do? And so his answer was that, well, we can't help the Gentiles. We need to protect our fellow Jews, and we need to bring them back to the Torah and do kiruv, which is outreach to Jews who have gone astray. So he
You
is a
know, well,
kiruv, a rabbi.
the rabbis who are getting like Gentile congregations under them are smarter because I think they just said, I think if you just say, well, most Jews are not coming back and we can't get them, so we might as well have Gentiles under our control, millions of billions of them. That's easier than, they've been, Jews have been reaching out to Jews forever and ever and ever and ever, and it's not working except for, the Orthodox, whatever it is, 10% of them that become Orthodox. So, obviously reaching out to the Gentiles is a much smarter. If I were a Jew, I'd be promoting the Noahide laws. I wouldn't, I mean, yeah, I'd worry about other Jews and I'd try to bring them back to Judaism, but, I would realize that, okay, the Jews have been evangelized to death. The Jews have tried to reach out to Jews to the point of just it's crazy, and these Jews are not interested in coming back.
Okay, so I'm actually saying they don't need to go to Judaism because if God exists and he did reveal the Torah and the Quran, it is already said that Jews are meant to become Muslims because it's time for them to move on over to Islam because the Torah is too hard.
Yes, and allow idolatry. It's not too hard, Claire. It's not too hard.
No.
It's too
You
hard
still
for
get
liberal
punished for idolatry because because if you're guilty of hidden idolatry, you'll basically be saying
going
calling
to
yourself a
hell.
Jew,
You're
a
not
Christian,
getting
or Muslim.
beheaded. Nothing happens in this world. You get
Because,
away with it. You're allowed to do whatever you want. That's just, you're like
yeah.
just
But
you're like
what can
you're like
what
tempting Jews. You're like tempting Jews into this paradise of doing whatever you want, and that doesn't sound like something God would do to me.
No. What happens is that when people understand the system, they will notice when people won't do the obvious thing. So I understand the system and I know why these rabbis refuse to engage properly and don't want to talk about the Noahide laws with me.
They
And say,
they don't want to talk about it with you because you're just telling them to give up on everything and just hand it all over to Islam. No Jew is going to listen to that.
okay, but then they have to say things, they have to argue at least, like, oh, it wasn't God who revealed the Quran, or they'd have to read it and they haven't, and they can't be bothered. And they
Yeah,
want me
well,
to
my
show.
reason is that it makes no sense for something to be as horrible as murder to be permitted. That's why I don't think that. I mean, if I don't even believe in this God, but I don't believe that if God exists, that he would have removed that commandment. I just don't believe that.
No, I have already explained that hypocrites are
Yeah, I
cursed by
now that
God,
doesn't
and
that no.
therefore, and I'm saying, well, hypocrisy is manifested through hidden idolatry.
Okay, hidden idolatry is not idolatry. It's idolatry is idolatry.
Okay,
Putting that word hidden. Okay, in the Noahide laws, you're not
it's a
beheaded if
concept in
no,
Islam. I
you're
didn't make it
in the
up.
Noahide laws. If you believe in your head Vishnu is God, you're not beheaded as long as you don't say it out loud. No, you're not beheaded, and nothing happens to you, and you make it into the next world and all this other kind of stuff. And you're saying, oh, well, somebody said Vishnu is God inside their head, and so therefore you're allowed to really worship Vishnu in real life if you want to. Like, no, that's just not how it works.
Yes, that's how it works because obviously the idea is that eventually all these idolaters will see reason and
No, they
prefer
won't.
to be. Well, I mean, that's the idea. But anyway, chapter 2, verse 256 protects their freedom of belief.
Which is not what the God of the Old Testament believes in.
Okay, but I'm saying that even if you were a Jew, a believing Jew, you'd have to agree to live under Sharia because at least it doesn't require you to live under Torah theocracy,
I
which would
know.
be
You
unbearable
think
even for Jews.
okay,
It was
so then
hugely impractical
why aren't all these Jews converting to Islam if it's so obvious? If this is just
because they're hypocrites. Because if they really believed in God, they think, Oh,
No,
you'll be
I'm
so
not a
annoyed with
hypocrite.
us.
I'm not a hypocrite just because I say, okay, well, God forbade idolatry, and I just don't believe that He would have removed that commandment. That's not hypocrisy. I just don't believe that He would have removed that commandment. I just don't believe that. That's not hypocrisy. That's a conviction that God just would not change His mind on that matter.
Idolatry is mentioned in the Quran.
Not as a capital offense.
No, but it's
Yeah,
but
well,
it does say
I don't believe God would change his mind on that issue. It just doesn't make sense that something would be so heinous and then all of a sudden it's just not that bad.
well, it is that bad because if hidden idolatry is manifested as hypocrisy, which means the Muslim in question not
No,
doing what
I
he's
know.
supposed to do, he'll end up in hell. So
Yeah,
you've got your
that's
punishment.
not, yeah, well, then that's not the way it worked in the Old Testament. I don't think he would just
Yeah,
insert,
but
well,
the Quran supersedes the Old Testament.
well, I don't believe that. I don't believe that because I don't think God would just change his rules like this and confuse everything, and it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
It just
nothing changed. Look, the Torah is for Jews. So
who were directed to make laws for Gentiles, and they did.
were they?
They were directed to do something, and they
No,
came
be
up.
light unto nations.
What does that
That's all.
mean? What does that mean, though? Doesn't that mean
To
spreading their?
teach them the Noahide laws, I
That's what
guess.
I'm saying. Yeah, to teach them the Noahide laws, and so they made the Noahide laws, and so that's obviously the revelation. If I do believe in God, I believe that that's the way it's supposed to be. If I believed in the Abrahamic God, I would think that the Jews were sent to be a light unto the nations, and they created the Noahide laws, and everyone's supposed to follow them, and that's what I would believe. And I just wouldn't believe that God said, okay, well, I'm going to allow idolatry without the capital punishment now. I just don't believe that.
It's not clearly stated anyway that it would result in a death penalty. I
Under
mean,
the
is
Noahide
it?
laws, it does. Under the Noahide laws, yes, idolatry is the death penalty or some penalty. Some penalty. There's some penalty for it.
Well, we know that the opinion is divided on, whether breaking any of the seven Noahide laws results in death.
No, punishment.
And they
Forget
don't
death.
like talking about.
No, punishment. You get punished. This thing. Oh, you don't get the death penalty. You're punished. Okay, that's what matters. Whether you go to jail or you get beheaded or you get fined or whatever, you're punished. So you're punished for idolatry under the Noahide laws, just as a Jew would be, and that's just about fair.
I didn't quite see why you can't just agree that, whatever you think of the Quran not being kosher enough,
No,
it's
it's not
still the
kosher
best
enough.
one going.
No,
And in fact, it
no,
is.
they have the Noahide laws. If you have the Noahide laws, there's no need for a weak water, second rate.
Yeah,
You know,
but Jews are not in a position to enforce
yeah,
them.
they're not. They're not. No, they're not supposed to enforce them. They're just supposed to teach them, and that's what they're doing, and
No,
that's
they're
it.
not,
And
because they won't rank
yes,
them.
that's you're the only person on earth. You're the only person on earth who
Well,
believes that.
That's the quickest way for
Of
Jews to
making everyone
address
not
these.
Noahide. That's the quickest way of deceiving everybody. If I believed in God, I would think that this is just like I would see through this. I mean, I would think you were satanic, Claire, if I believed in
How?
God.
Why?
I would think that this was just a plot by Satan to get everyone to not follow the Noahide laws.
No, because it would be well, the closest thing is the
No, I would
Quran.
know
So
it's
I
no
guess you all have to
cigar.
read the
I would
Quran.
say it's no cigar, and it's tricky, it's slippery, it's slimy, and it's
What's
obviously
so tricky or slippery or slimy about
because
the Quran?
it's getting people to accept a lower standard.
Yeah, but Well, Muslims think it's high enough. I
No,
guess
well,
Americans would
okay,
think
well,
it's
I've
high enough. I mean,
obviously,
are you really, as an American, wanting the First Amendment to be abolished?
I'm saying that I'm saying that if I did believe in the Abrahamic God, I would believe that this was some kind of satanic conspiracy, is what I would believe.
I wonder if there's anyone at all I can find to discuss this with, to extract an opinion from him.
Well, no, but no Jew is going to agree with it, and
Yeah,
you
I know why
know,
these Jews won't agree with it because they
but it's
are
obvious. Well,
Islamophobes.
I'm
And
not Jewish. I'm not Jewish, and I would.
yeah, but you are in your own way invested in the no-hide laws.
No, but I would
They're
also, if
kind of your.
okay, but I would also, if I believed in the Abrahamic God, then I would believe in the Noahide laws, and that's it. If I did, like, but I don't. But if I were one, I would see through what you're doing, and I would just say this is, some kind of evil plot.
What's so evil about the Quran?
Because I would say that it allows idolatry.
Well, it's impossible to avoid.
And gives Gentiles extra laws and extra holidays and extra this and extra that, and gives them a religion and all these other kinds of things. And I would say it's just it's not kosher.
Well, I know that the Jews wouldn't want to acknowledge that the Quran is the superior revelation.
Well, because it breaks the first revelation. It just what no, it's just it watered it down, and they didn't
Okay,
water
so
it down.
do you really think most people would say, rah rah rah, let's execute idolaters and blasphemers? I mean, I really don't think
Eventually,
most
not
Gentiles. No, I'm
eventually, but
talking
you
about
think you
now.
I know, but you're the only one. Everyone else who's getting anywhere is thinking about the future and they're working now to change the now, but they're not, running out of the gate. Let's whip on pregnant mothers. Let's get rid of capitalism. Like, anyone who's winning is doing it slowly, Claire. They're not doing it your way.
Well, nobody seems to be doing it at all.
They are doing it. They're just not doing it at your speed, but maybe they're just smarter than you, and maybe God works slower than you do. Jehovah's Witnesses would just say there are people they would always say, oh, people broke off and we weren't doing it fast enough for them, and we weren't doing enough for them, and we weren't doing this, and they all went to the wayside because they didn't have Jehovah's Holy Spirit over them. There's tons of break off groups off the Jehovah's Witnesses that get nowhere, because, oh, you're not this enough for us, you're not that enough for us, you don't do this fast enough, you don't do that slow enough, you don't do this, you don't do that, and it's just
Well,
they
it's
would.
obvious that it should be done ASAP, and
Well, the thing
I
is
don't
that,
see anything
well,
getting better.
the mainstream organization might have gone slower, but they're a lot more successful than people who try to go too fast.
No, well, all I'm doing is establishing the principle. And the
They
principle
already
is that
have principles, and they have higher principles than you do. They have
who
stronger
are you
principles.
talking about?
The Jews have stronger principles than you do.
Really, I think that they're actually atheists and they don't give a damn about Gentiles. Maybe they're not scared enough yet
No,
because
I'm
they
talking
think
about
that they're going
religious
to get
religious
away with
Jews
it.
that are promoting the Noahide laws have higher have
Well,
higher principles than you.
no, I think they're Islamophobes and
No,
probably atheists. Well,
no, they're
Shulman is
not.
definitely an Islamophobe.
Well,
He's too
because it
afraid to
doesn't.
even read the Quran. He gets some goy to do it for him. I
Well, it's
guess
just that
a lot of these Jews have been
it's
told to
obviously a
avoid
lower
reading the
revelation.
Quran
Well,
in case
I'm
they
not I'm
convert.
not Jewish, and I don't even believe in God, and I just see it on the logical level that obviously God already gave the Gentiles everything they needed, and that was it. And, this is obviously Gentiles not wanting to live up to stringency. And, just because you don't want to live up to stringency doesn't mean you need to go and invent a whole brand new religion.
Well, it's been invented and it's in practice. And I mean, obviously, it's successful enough for a lot of people to hate it and for rabbis to
Okay, well,
fear.
people hate. Okay, well, there's no country on earth where Islam is illegal. More people hate Jehovah's Witnesses than they hate Muslims, and they're not
I don't know
successful.
how you can say that.
Well,
I don't think
what country, and what
people
country is
perceive.
Islam? In what country is Islam illegal? Can you name one country where Islam is illegal? Because I can name about 3 Islamic countries where Jehovah's Witnesses are illegal.
Yeah, I think we went through that before, but I guess most people don't think Jehovah's Witnesses are scary. People
Then
in
why
the
are they
West, I mean,
illegal? Then why do they make them illegal?
because I
Why is
guess
Russia after them so much?
because you don't join the army or something.
Well, I mean, neither do some other groups. But the point that I'm making is that just because you're hated doesn't mean you're successful.
Feared, I mean. I guess Islam
Well, just
is
because
more
you're
feared.
feared or hated or this or that doesn't mean you're successful. It like yes, they're disliked because maybe nobody wants to live like them or have their countries turn into their countries, but
I mean, are we really arguing about whether, Jehovah's Witnesses are scarier than Muslims?
I'm not. I'm just saying that just because somebody hates or fears you doesn't mean that you're successful or that you're the best. And that's not necessarily a reason to choose a religion. Oh, people are fearful of them. That's not a reason to choose a religion.
Well, it's evidence of its power, I guess, if people are afraid of it.
Yeah, well, people are, Muslims are afraid of the White West because we bomb them, and they're so dumb that they can't. They're so dumb that all the CIA needs to do is wave a dollar in front of their face, and they'll murder each other. Like it's just.
Yeah, because most of their leaders are hypocrites, and that's why they're so susceptible to bribery. Yeah, and so this pretending to believe but not really believing and finding all kinds of excuses not to do what the religion requires is to be punished, I guess, according to the Quran. So it's not like they get off lightly, is my point. They're not getting off lightly if you believe in the afterlife. So I guess you can even use this and say, look, you're not following the religion properly, and you're going to hell. And if enough people say it to the bad ruler, he might change his ways. But obviously enough people have to understand how the system works and know their Quran for them to, say these things. And I mean, I do sincerely think that the Quran is a better guide than the Torah. I just don't see how even any Jew would disagree. Because
Well, because he
really,
sent it.
if you were rational, you would want.
Well, I don't see how it's rational. I don't see how it's rational to just go from one extreme to another. And,
Well, sorry, one extreme to
just
what?
from the extreme of idolatry being the most heinous crime to it just not being that bad.
Because Islam is Judaism light,
Yeah,
and it
well,
has to be that
obviously,
way for
well,
Gentiles.
the more you try to convince me of this, the more I think to myself that if I did believe in the Abrahamic God, that I would obviously see Islam as a satanic conspiracy. I just the more, yes,
But
it just
you refuse to read the Quran, and
I read. Oh God, the only part I don't know about the Quran is I'm going to hell 500 times over. I read all the laws. That's all you care about, and that's what I did. I don't care about who sat under a fucking palm tree.
I don't remember any verse about a palm
Whatever. I don't
tree.
care about palm trees or cows or camels or any of this kind of stuff. I don't care about any of that.
Nor
All I
do
care
I.
about.
Obviously, these verses that you
All
talk
I
about, they didn't
all I
come.
care about all I care about is what are the rules in there. I have the rules. The rest of the book is irrelevant. Like, it's just it that's all that really matters are the
What
rules.
really matters are the laws that you can base your which book you're going to base your laws on. And I think any rational person would want their laws based on the book that doesn't have 36 capital offenses.
Yeah, this is your hedonism. You're just promoting hedonism.
No,
Yes, you are.
if
You're just saying, oh, you don't want it to be that strict. You want a more liberal version
yeah,
of it. Well,
yeah,
that's
that's
hedonism.
only
That
natural.
sounds hedonistic. That sounds
Not
hedonistic
really.
to me. Yeah, you just want people to
If
be able to
God
do whatever they want.
if God allows something more permissive than the Torah for Gentiles, I just don't see what's wrong with accepting that offer.
Because I don't want to think, if I were religious, I wouldn't want to think that God made a lower standard for me as a Gentile.
Well, you're not meant to think of it as a lower
It is a
standard. You're
lower
supposed to think
standard.
of it as a better revelation. And why wouldn't it be better if it is less restrictive?
Well, that's just
Most people
hedonism.
would think that.
Well, you're not convincing me, Claire, and I think there's a reason why you haven't convinced anyone else either. But I'm not, if I believed in God, if I'm pretending I believe in the Abrahamic God, then that just sounds like you're tempting me. That sounds like a temptation. That sounds like the snake tempting Eve or something like that. It just sounds like temptation.
So you're saying that Gentiles don't deserve their revelation and they have
They
to
did
rely
get their
on the
revelation.
Talmud. I mean that's I guess
It's a
that
strict.
kind of makes
It's a higher standard. It's
Gentiles hate
stricter.
God.
Well, if you have very strong convictions, then I think you're more likely to go for the Noahide laws than, if you just don't
But
want
people don't
if
want to have,
okay.
harsh laws for the sake of having harsh
Okay,
laws.
well that sounds like the Gentiles just didn't want to live up to the Noahide laws, so they made up their own thing, and that just sounds
Oh, you're
unacceptable
saying
to
that the
me.
Quran is made up.
Well, because they obviously didn't want to follow anything stricter than that, so
Well,
yeah.
because obviously the Quran is higher status than the Talmud.
No, it makes more sense that God would send the Noahide laws than Islam.
Well, the Noahide laws were a
And
creation of the Jews.
your only thing against them is that they're strict, but that doesn't work. That doesn't work for everyone. If I believe that these are God's laws, I'm going to do them whether they're strict or not. If God tells me to stand on my head and I believe in it, I'm going to stand on my head. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
but
I'm
we have to think people who just want to, do the right thing and not be and it not being too scary and hard.
okay. Well, that just sounds like yeah. That just sounds very weak to me, Claire. That just like
It
I don't
sounds
want it because
practical. I'm
no,
just,
it doesn't sound
anticipating that most
divine.
people, if they
It
were
doesn't sound
being
divine.
sensible, would choose it.
It
Would choose
doesn't
that
sound
way.
divine. It sounds like human reasoning. It doesn't sound like it comes from
Yes, of
God.
course, it's human reasoning.
Yeah, well, that
What?
doesn't make it sound like from God. It doesn't sound like
No, no, we're meant to use our God-given ability to reason, and God is saying, "Look,
well, God.
there's one for the Jews that's really hard with 36 capital offenses, and there's the other one that doesn't. Which one are you gonna choose?" And you're saying, "Oh, I want to choose a really harsh one that even Jews don't really want."
The no-hate laws are not that hard for Gentiles to follow.
But the thing is, it has to rely on Jewish rabbinical interpretation.
So what? They were meant to be a light unto the nations. So what?
No, no, no. I'm saying that even if all Jews converted to Islam, they would be doing, they would still
No,
be be
this
like
is
unto
all this is
nations.
all like God made a second revelation because the first one was too complicated, and but he
Yes,
already knew that. This is like, then why did it even send the first revelation if it was too
because it was
complicated?
necessary to make the point.
This is, it just gets more. I mean, you're not practicing Occam's razor. It's not like the simplest explanation. You're making it more complicated, and you just make it increasingly more and more complicated, and it just.
No, it's very simple. You've already understood it. There's first revelation, too strict. Jews can't. Too strict for Jews who have half of whom have fallen into heresy. So the Jews have no moral authority to get Gentiles to do anything. And second revelation. And it's like, oh, Islam, 1400 years track record,
Not a very
it's still
good
going.
one. Not a
Well,
very
it's
good
better
one.
than it's better than everything else that
Yeah,
anything else we've heard of.
well, I think that just the Noahide laws will do much better track record than Islam will. So I think that,
Even though it goes against the First Amendment.
so what? It's time,
You're
that.
supposed to be you're
Well, that's the
American.
point. Well, the point is
Well, how
that
can you be so
the point
dismissive
is
of the
that
First
when
Amendment?
America, I'm not talking about me. The point is that when people are sick and tired of gays and lesbians and children out of wedlock and this and divorce and all this other kind of stuff, they might be ready for something a little bit more strict.
Well, I think they will find the Quran strict enough. Give them a chance to get used to something less scary than scripture with 36 capital offenses. I don't know why you expect them to go from 0 to 100 in a minute
Well, it's there.
when
No,
they can
well, but
barely
okay.
walk.
And the Jews are not expecting that either. That's why they're doing this slowly. They're not trying to take them from 0 to 100 in a minute. They're trying to do it in about 50, 60 years, not a minute like you.
I don't think they're planning anything at all. They're just trying to delay. They're just dragging their feet.
They are planning. They are moving forward with it, just not a lightning speed like you want.
Well, obviously, it should be done ASAP because things are
Well,
getting worse every day. And the longer you leave it, the harder it will be
they're
to
not
fix.
leaving
And the
it.
people will be just weaker and stupider and more corrupt.
They're not leaving it. They just know not to go from 0 to 100. They just know
No,
not to do that.
they're just hypocrites.
Well, no, just you're not. They're smarter. They're just doing it in a more clever
I
way.
don't think they're doing anything. They're
Yes,
not
they
doing
obviously.
anything.
Yes, they obviously are all around the world doing things and moving these things forward. Just not. Yeah, I mean, this is you. Claire, you are a product of mass culture because everything to you is like. It's like if it's not the Walmart and if it doesn't have the whole market, then it doesn't matter. Like, some people they open up a shop and they're going to slowly enter into the market and take it over slowly, and they're going to have a higher quality product, and maybe they won't rise as fast as Walmart, but they're taking their time, and it's just like you are a very mass product, mass produced kind of thinker.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is for people, or, it is a religion for countries. I mean, I don't pretend it's some, I don't know, esoteric thing or some exclusive social club. I don't pretend. I mean, okay, Islam is a political party, while, I don't know who's calling me, excuse me. Hello?
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Apparently, I'm wanted elsewhere.
Okay, why don't you go? Because we've been on here for 2 hours and 15 minutes.
Yes. Okay.
So,
Yes. I'll just deal with a question from making a crime of hypocrisy. No, I don't intend to make hypocrisy a crime. I'm just pointing out that God says he'll punish it in the afterlife. So, and Living the Dream says, the practice of feigning to be what one is not or to believe what one does not. No, it doesn't sound like SK because secular Quranism doesn't require you to change your beliefs at all.
okay, I'm gonna go.
All right, thank you
All
for
right,
coming.
yep. Bye.